and this is Tania Leanne. Tania and I are about to do a 30-minute podcast, our first one. Tania and I have only met each other recently, and in fact, we've only ever spoken for 1.5 hours in entirety. So we're going to give a little introduction to who we are and what the podcast is about, but we too will be listening for the first time about each other. So it'll be an interesting ride for us all. Tania, tell me about yourself. Who are you?
Well, so I'm Tania Leanne, and I think that's so cool that we're actually going to be getting to know each other through this process, because we did just meet. We were in a mediumship circle, and Nette reached out to the organizers and was like, I must speak with this Tania person. So she reached out, and here we are. And prior to her reaching out, I was wanting to start a podcast. And Spirit keeps kind of pushing me to do this. And it's about sort of sharing a message about keeping it real and not having, for lack of a better term, all of that sort of airy-fairy drama that can come with spirituality. In fact, just yesterday, I was at a massage appointment and she was pregnant. And we're chatting and she goes, I swear I've met my daughter. She goes, I'm sure it's a girl. I swear I've met her. And she described what she looked like and all of that. And I said, well, did I tell you what I do as a side business? And she's like, no. I'm like, oh, I'm a medium. She's like, what? She's like, no way. She goes, I mean, I've always had these abilities, but honestly, they freak me out. And then she started sharing with me some of the premonitions and things that she had happen and her other experiences with mediums. And one was she had said, oh, well, maybe it's not going to be a girl. And somebody said to her, oh, don't put that energy out into the universe. And I'm like, don't listen to those people.
No.
And then she said, oh, and this other medium that I was seeing, she was connecting to somebody, and then all of a sudden she was like, oh, well, this must be a ghost because they're like trying to get inside me. And I was like, that is why I want to do this podcast, because I want to keep it real. Because what a gift for her and everybody else to be able to tap into our spirituality and into our intuition, because really connecting with spirit is connecting deeper to ourselves, but taking away. And I don't even want to say, for lack of a better term, there's a lot of drama in spirituality. There's a lot of airy fairy, and you get like your spirituality starter kit, that has like mala beads and a chakra thing that you hang on your wall, and so I've done all of that. I've kind of moved through all of learning about all the different things. And the thing that was so cool about my conversation with you is that we were like, yes, because it can just get silly. And me, I've been a police officer for 22 years and I work in child exploitation. So there's a lot of people that have that sensitivity that comes along with mediumship. They're like, oh my God, I could never do that. I can't read for people in difficult situations because I'm too sensitive, or they don't like the energy of something. And it's like, it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be and again, I'm going to use the term dramatic. We can function normally in society and also be in tune with our gifts. So we want to keep it real.
And it's taking the woo-woo out of La La Land. Like it doesn't need to be there, right? And I think we both had those terms, woo-woo and la la. It's like, this should be something that this is a sixth sense. This is our intuition. We should be proud of this. We should be able to speak about this. This should be part of our everyday life for everyone. Not like, if you don't have the crystals and you don't have the moment, or you don't sit with the right light, or I think you sent me something the other day, if you don't have the tall glass with the water in front of you, you're not going to get the vibrations
that you infused with love and care. Then you're not going to elevate your vibration. And it's like, oh my God, like,
let's keep it real.
You don't have to infuse a glass of water in order to raise your vibration. How about you just go out about in the world and function. Like,
Yeah.
so, and then the other part that I just wanted to quickly say is the other cool part is because I already had the name One Foot in Both Worlds, and you're in Australia and I'm in Canada.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. It was meant to be.
What exactly? Let's start with what's your purpose. And then why don't we go into after that kind of a little bit of, how we came to our abilities.
Yeah. Okay. Purpose-wise, I think, as you mentioned before, you were at the stage where you knew you had to do a podcast. And I was at the same stage where it was like, okay, you're going to do something. You need to get your voice out there. You need to get this, keeping it real. It was something we both came to the table with, was really just keep it real. And because I was intuitive as a child, I just thought everybody was. And you go through your whole life and then you find out, at 49, I had this massive thing, which is for a whole nother podcast, but happened that gave me that you're going to meet this Tania in a year, and it sort of did this thing. So I ended up on this psychic mastery course with Nancy Rebecca, and she is amazing. It's a brilliant course, but I started to go through it and I was like, what am I doing here? And it said, you're here to learn the language of this la la land, so that you can then translate that back into everyday life, and you can put words. Like, I didn't know what a chakra was, yet I could see different levels. And so it gave me a language to all those sort of bits and pieces. And so when I finished the course, there was a next level, and I'm very good at this. I'm naturally intuitive. So everybody thought that I would go on to the next course, including me. And it was like, nah, you're not going to do that. Don't get conditioned. And so part of it for me was that was a really strong thing of being conditioned to one teacher's kind of way of life and one path, that you start to make this intuitive stuff separate to your life. It's like you're starting to have to label everything, and who are you hearing that from? You must know. So you're going up there trying to find an answer. And I've been getting messages my whole life. All of a sudden I feel like I have to know who it's from and why are they telling me, and I've got to sit in deep meditation to get it. I'm like, well, I didn't in the past. I just had to do the dishes and stuff would come
me
through.
Too. Me too. Like, it just happened. I didn't
anything near water, right?
Yeah. It just happened. It's always been quite easy. Not always, and again, it'll be another podcast to sort of talk about how my gifts like really showed up. But I agree.
And then,
carry on.
And then it's like that whole it showed me what people were doing to try and get intuitive or to try and to become psychics or mediums. And I realized that definitely the way that I did it and the way I did it comfortably was not to do it that way. So just to integrate into your life, and connection with people and connection and movement and things like that were the best way. So I remember sitting in a kind of a walking, I walk every day on the beach, and if I don't feel right. So, and while I walk, I often hear lots of different stuff come through, and your mind thinks and mulls it over. And I remember hearing the 70-30 rule. It's like 30% should be about that energy and that spiritual, but if you don't keep at least 70 in the real world, in the physical touch, in the whole thing like that, then you're never going to get to the connection that you need to be for the average person. Now, I get there's people who, shamans and things like that, whatever they are, whoever they are, that sit in meditation for a long time, and everyone is different. But for the average person, we do not need to do bells and whistles. We do not need to have all these things. It's not saying you can't. It's just saying you don't have to. So, don't have to find out who your guide is. Don't have to find out who this is. Don't have to sit in meditation for 20 minutes before you do anything. Now, some people do, some people don't. And I think that's the keeping it real bit for me. Just everyday life, use your intuition, use your sixth sense, and don't worry about la la woo woo.
I'm the exact same way, and I don't meditate. And my partner, Kevin, he will sometimes say like, do you believe in chakras? And I'm like, I just, yeah, I believe in them. Absolutely, they exist, but it's not really necessary to fully understand the intricacies of your chakras in order to tap into your intuition. And we can talk about chakras on another podcast, but when you talked about the levels and whatever, it speaks a lot to me, almost like religion, where it's like you must connect this way, you must live this way, you must do things this way in order to get God's grace, in order to connect to spirit, in order to have your gifts open up. And it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I love that analogy.
At least it didn't for me. And I don't like that sort of like you have to be into a box, which is what I mean about the, spirituality starter kit, complete with Malabeads. It's just not necessary. So, and that's what I loved about connecting with you, is that it was like, oh my God, you're speaking my language. Hey, do you want to do this with me? So here we are. And I just think it's awesome. But what I love is a couple of your stories about coming into your gifts and how you've dealt with it through your life, and the messages that you're getting about me.
Okay. All right. So very quickly, we touched on, I was born in Australia. I'm from a large family. I've got 5 sisters and 2 brothers, and I was a 5th child, and loving, beautiful Catholic family. We went to church every Sunday, and we lived in a little community, 1 road in, 1 road out. And so I was brought up in this really loving, caring, grow your own veggies, swap meat, swap veggies sort of thing with all your neighbors and your community. So I had a really loving, beautiful childhood, and I was quite sensitive in that I could feel how other people, I liked kindness, I liked good things, I hated that movies had to be bad, I hated that things were things. So I was always the child in the family that was, the nice one that wanted to do things for other people, because I could literally feel how they felt. But I also thought everybody else could do that. And to different degrees, everyone can. I think we can feel things. I was a child that someone would say something and I would know the answer to it, but I kind of realized that maybe I shouldn't know the answer. So I would say, somebody told me this, or someone told me this, or I heard this, and I would have answers. Even in medical sort of things, someone would have an ache and I'd say, oh, I heard that someone had some kidney pain that happened to, which I did hear.
I read an article on Facebook. I do that still in my life.
But, it was always voices coming in, and I was a dreamer, like dreamer. Absolute. I'd go to bed at night and I could dream 6 movies in one night. Like there was, starring, acting and rolling in the whole thing. I could fly. I used to fly in my dreams.
Oh my gosh, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. And
how good is flying?
And you know what? I actually think I was astrally traveling.
Yeah. Yeah. And see, that's putting language to what happened, right? And as a kid, we didn't need to do that. But then as you find things older, you're like, oh, hang on, maybe I was, And I noticed that in the course that I did, people like this are, oh yeah, I used to do that. I do that, and it's like, oh, okay, this is what people are aspiring to do. And that was our everyday life. So, and I got sick a lot, especially in what we call grade 2. So I might have been about 7 or 8 years old, and I would just get sick for no reason for 2 or 3 weeks, to the point the teacher made a corner in our classroom with cushions, and she was
Nettie corner.
And absolutely, yeah. And whenever I was tired, she would say, well, maybe just come in for the week until you recover. And I would wake up in the night at home and my hands would feel like they were square, like the energy running through my body was insane. And my dad would get up and he'd rub my hands and I'd say, why have I got this happening? He'd go, I don't know, you just got so much energy, and when you sleep at night you compound all your energy together and it's just trying to get out of your body. And I didn't really understand what that was, but I did know that if I wasn't around people and talking to people and engaging with people, it would get worse. And but also when I was around people and engaging people, I would get tired and sick for a couple of weeks afterwards. So I was doing kind of this healing thing that I didn't understand what it was. And a lot of it's just verbalizing and chatting and all that sort of stuff. It's not necessarily, there's none of that. It's just getting them to identify what it is, or energetically, I could move through the person's body. Like I could just kind of feel like I could go like almost like a ultrasound through their body and feel where things were and then release energy. And I was just doing this naturally, not doing a thing, but then it would exhaust me. It would absolutely exhaust me. So I would be sick for a week. And this teacher, I know she was intuitive. She was just amazing. She actually, I had her in year 5. And unfortunately, when I was in year 7, I sang at her with my class at her funeral because she died really young. But she was instrumental kind of in that early stages, because it was when I think all my intuitive stuff was really getting to a big hype, and she just normalized it for me. She was just like, you know, sometimes you've just got so much energy that it just makes you really tired and you need to sleep for a week, but you can still listen in the class and learn. And I was a bright kid, so I didn't need to get behind. And so other than that, I really just went through assuming that kind of everyone was doing what I was doing. Then when I met my husband, I started to realize that maybe he's sort of saying, no, that's not normal. That's not normal. We're only 17. We met really young, but he would sort of saying, no, that isn't. And so slowly but surely, I started to uncover that not everybody sees ghosts, which I thought they did. I know that most of my family had the same dream, and we would see these things come up the hall, but some of them would hear it, some of them would see it in this dream, and we'd all wake up with this kind of thing. So I knew that was something that everyone did. And then I realized that no, a lot of people don't even dream, you know. So I started, as I left home and got into the real world, to realize that I was maybe had a sixth sense that was stronger than some other people. But it really wasn't until I was a lot older that when I did the course at 49, that I realized that, oh, this is what's happening. And the pivotal thing was I went away with my sister, and it was during COVID, right? So we hadn't seen each other. We live in different states. We'd got together. We'd gone to this beautiful, treated ourselves at this beachside retreat, adults only kind of thing. It was amazing. And we had tried to book in for a massage, and she wanted a facial, and we couldn't get in because everyone that could travel that was there that's what they were doing. And that night we went out to dinner, and we came home, and I opened the doors to look out over the marina to the ocean, and there was this massive storm coming through, like these black rolling clouds. And as I opened up the doors, this energy just came onto me, and it was like overpowering. And I felt like I was having a panic attack. Not that I'd really had panic attacks in my life, but I'd had sort of minor little things like this. And I thought, this is what a panic attack is. I just couldn't work it out. And my head was kind of full on, and my eyes, I couldn't see this. It was just too bright. And my sister's like, what's happening to you? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't feel right. And we were going to go up and have a drink somewhere. I'm like, I can't do this. And she's just like, are you all right? And I said, oh, maybe I'm panicking because I'm away from my family and I'm worried that I can get cut off. And I was trying to justify what was happening to me. I was trying to find a reason for my panic. Anyway, I said, I need to lie down. I need to go to bed. And she said, I went out like a light, and I slept for like 12 hours and woke up the next morning feeling okay, still a bit groggy, but okay. And she said, we've got to book in for a massage. You need it, even if we can just get you in. And I said, we've tried. She goes, I'm going to try another place. So she picks up her phone and looks up, and it was this weird place that had the word, it sounded like a cult. You know how some massage places are like, their names sound like if you go in there, you're going to be converted to I don't know, whatever, and come out. And so she said, as long as we don't end up in a cult or sign up for something, we're fine. So I'm like, no, that won't happen. Anyway, she rang, and they said, oh, we've had a cancellation. We've got this one book in the middle of the day, but you have to take the package. It's a facial for one person, it's a massage for the other, it's a spa, and it's a light sort of refreshments with bubblies. That's exactly what we had asked for, like to the T, and rang everywhere the day before, we couldn't get. So we went in and we did this. It was great. I had our nubblies, had our spa. She went off for a facial. I went for my massage. And when I came out of the massage, it went for ages. It was meant to be like an hour massage. It was like an hour and a half. And I came out, and my sister had been taken off. They'd given her this extra treatment. It was like this light bed or something like that. I can't remember, floating bed or floating tank, or I'm not even quite sure what it was. And the masseur came out and sat with me, and I'm like, oh, she goes, oh, I don't know how to put this, but here you are. I was like, weird.
Yeah.
I'm pretty okay with who I am. Like, pretty grounded. And she's like, no, I mean, like, have you ever heard of Palladians? And I said, no. She's like, okay. And she said, Palladians and Syrians. And I said, no. And she goes, okay, can you kind of, and I said, do I see dead people? And she's like, yeah, do you see dead people? I said, yeah, sometimes. She said, do you just like know and feel things? I said, yeah. She goes, like, full on. She goes, I tried to give you a massage and you were healing me as I was trying to give you the massage. She said, it took me so much energy to actually try and reverse the energy back to you, but you just kept healing me. She said, I feel so good. I feel so energized after that. But I feel bad because I kept going because I thought I'm meant to be giving to you. And I said, oh no, that's how I relax. The more I help other people, the better I feel. It's like an energy. If I release that energy, I've been given so much energy, I need to get rid of it. So when someone massages me, I often release the energy out of my body and into theirs. And she said, oh, it's amazing. But she said, go home and Google Palladians and Syrians. So I'm like, okay, whatever they are. I'm dyslexic too, right? So I don't even know how to spell Palladians or Syrians. So I get home and I was telling my sister and she said, that was weird. When I said, oh yeah, she was telling me to do this. She goes, don't sign up for anything. I told you it was a cult. I said, no. She hasn't asked me anything. She did give me a card and her personal phone number and said if I need guidance at all to come back to her. But she's going, don't ring it. It's a cult. So, I got home and I Googled Palladians and Syrians and I looked it up. And the Palladian read exactly as my personality and the Syrian read exactly as my husband's personality. And I got Will out, our son out, he's 18 at the moment, it was 17 at the time. I said, can you read these? And he goes, oh my God, this is sounding like you and Dad to the T. That is so you, Mum, and that is so Dad. And I said, oh, this lady told me about this. Anyway, I'm going to Google a bit more. And so there was this lady, Rebecca, who had this thing on. So I watched the video and then I Googled her and she happened to have this. She's a psychic teacher and she happened to have this free 3-day course starting the next day. So I was like, oh, I'll do that. And so I went on and did that for 3 days. And it was all about your clear seeing, clear knowing, clear hearing. And it was going through those.
Ooh, the clairs. That's another great topic for another podcast. Clairs.
Yeah, absolutely. And so anyway, I did these and I was like, hey, I scored really well on these. This is sort of good. And she did some extra courses for free, and then she offered a 12-month course in psychic masteries, and I knew that there was something. I was getting this really big push that I'm going to be moving into this field. And I remember when I was younger, I'd told the first 50 years are yours to just be in your body, but the second 50 years are going to be ours, so we're going to work together. And I didn't know what that meant. It was a weird thing, but I had that knowing my whole life. And I was 49 when this happened and I was going to be turning 50, so it was like, okay, this is it. So I went on and I started this course and I was told when I started, I loved it, right? It was great. It was a couple of hours each week and I was told that you're going to meet 5 key people, and one of those people was Tania, right? And the other people I knew who they were and I'd met them. There's 2 of them that I weren't given names for, but I know I ended up in this small group and I'm sure that that's who they were. But this Tania, so there was a girl on the course, Tania, and I'm like, this is it. But every time I looked at her, because I visually see things, right? I could see this red flag flying and I'm like, red flag, that's not a good thing. And every time she went to do things, it was like red flag. I think, this isn't it. Like, I don't relate to this girl. I have nothing in common with her. It just didn't work. But I'm like, but I told Tania, it's a Tania. This is her. Anyway, I got to the end of the course. I'm like, I'm just going to leave it. I don't know that I'm going to come back to that Tania, blah, blah, blah. And I ended up getting this vision of this being with this kind of crystal thing here. And so I Googled that and Jeanette Biro came up. And so I went on and looked on Jeanette Biro's thing, and she had this course that popped up that was a 12-month circle. And I'm like, oh, well, I suppose I'm meant to do this next. So I got on there, and the first week we did this circle. It was nice and it was good. And I was thinking, I still don't know why I'm here, but Jeanette's amazing, you know, like, so maybe I'm meant to get something there. And then the second month we do, I obviously have one circle a month, comes on, and there is Tania. And I like, before you even opened your mouth, I'm like, that's my Tania. And then you started talking and I'm like, I think you might have even used the terminology of something that related to my keeping it real kind of things. And I think you might have mentioned,
you know what it was?
I did a reading.
Meditation.
I did a reading, remember, on you. And I could see this block of this power and this pressure coming in. Yeah. And that's the pressure that I was getting. So I related to it. And I looked back and I could see this source, you know, this light source that was coming from. And I'm like, it was familiar.
And then I was just like, and then I was like, well, I know what that is, because I'm very much being pushed to get my voice out there more, and I call it coming out of the closet. And you know, but I'm nervous. I don't, it's awkward. And, you know, and here we are. And so
you know, funny, because coming out of the closet is my term too for this, which is like, obviously, what's interesting?
I actually tried a couple times to do a couple podcasts, and I was just practicing to kind of sit down and do it. And it was so awkward for me to sit and just talk to nobody, because the people that do it, they sound great. They sound like they're talking to you. But for me, I found that really hard. So as soon as you came around, I was like, I suspect. And then we started talking, and we both very much want to get out the same message. So I just think that's super cool.
Yeah. So that's how we ended up here. That's my little life story. And it was meant to be short, but long life story. Yeah.
Perfect. So and then I just want to give a little plug, because Jeanette Biro has a website, avalonspirit.com. And you can actually get book readings with me through there under I think it's called the Spirit Journey Guides. And my name on there is Tania Leanne.
And we can,
so that's my little plug.
Yeah. Do it.
Okay.
And we'll add the link anyway. If we actually get this up on a podcast, if you're seeing this, there will be a link below.
And we succeeded. If you're seeing this or hearing this, we succeeded. Yes. And it's so funny, because every single time we sit down to talk, one of our electronics in some way malfunctions. So as we're talking, my light shut off. As we were trying to get started, we couldn't get the sound. AirPods, we couldn't get sound, we couldn't get speakers. So anyway, every single time that we try to talk, something happens. So I don't know.
And we did find out then too that we both actually have electronically, we do destroy things. Like, you know, I break things all the time electronically, and then we come along later and they just work again. So
it's
bizarre. I'm in my son's room on his computer purely because I've destroyed my laptop, my husband's laptop, my husband's sound. So we've got good energy. So let's hear, I want to know more about your life, because I know very little about you. So it'd be awesome to hear, how did you get to where I found you on the circle? Like, what were you doing on a circle?
So I grew up with a police officer father and a nurse mother. We started off in a small town. We lived in the prairies. And it was a very logical, like very logic based. There wasn't a lot of openness to this type of thing at all. And, you know, in hindsight, I can say as a child, I had these abilities. I would pick up on different things. And one thing that I was always able to do is tell when I was being lied to, and sort of see into people. I don't know how else to explain that, other than you know, somebody would be upset because something happened, and I would be like, no, you're not. That's not what's happening for you. Like, you're going through this. And honestly, like, I started to question my sanity sometimes, because I would be like, is this just wishful thinking? You know, I just want them to be sort of going through this type of thing, because whatever, but like, I could just always do that. And then I became a police officer super young. I was 20. So like I said, I've been doing it for 22 years. So I didn't actually start at 20. I started at 13, because I'm still young.
Yeah.
No, I started at
You
20.
are young
and
to me.
Yeah. No, I started at 20, and then 21 is when I started training at 20 and at 21. Anyway, so I was just, it's law, it's policing, it's fairly fact-based and logical, and not a lot of space sort of for the spiritual. And I would still have experiences. I would, and it took me a while to figure it out, but I would like have panic attacks for people. I would sit down beside somebody that was going through something, and it would just roil through my body, and I would like process it. And it was honestly awful. Or I would feel somebody's back pain for them, things like that. And then my son was born, and I started, so this was about 13 years ago. So I started seeing things more. I started having experiences where I would see like fluttering lights, or I would have an animal walk past me and stop, like a wild animal, and stop and stare at me, or a bird like fluttering outside my window staring at me. And I was like, what is going, like, that doesn't happen. And when my son was coming about 1, I was going to be done maternity leave and heading back to work. And my son has always been super duper attached to me. And I was honestly having anxiety about going back to work. And I had a friend who was doing some energy healing course type thing. And she said, look, why don't I do a treatment on him? And maybe it'll just kind of ease some of his anxiety. And I'm like, okay, awesome. Like, I'm willing to do anything because I need to be at peace when I go back to work. And so we went, and she did a treatment on him. And then she goes, but Tanya, she goes, I think that some of this is you, like, you're anxious. Why don't I do a little treatment on you? So I don't know that she was specifically doing, it may have been Reiki, but here's a side note about Reiki. That is just somebody else teaching you their modality of energy healing. Like, I don't, I kind of have my own, I don't do anything specific. But so she did this treatment, and it was like, I was open, and I was seeing dead people, and I was seeing things, and my car would break down, and 5 minutes later it would start, and there was nothing wrong with it. And a friend came over, and she was talking to me about her mother passing, and all of a sudden her mom was showing me, because little did I know that there was some confusion with, sorry, my back's itchy. There was some confusion with how she passed, but the mother was showing me exactly what happened. And I'm sharing this with a friend, and she's just like, wow. And then I had the same experience. I was like, oh my God, I am so tired. Like, you got to learn how to work with the energy.
Yeah.
And so I started going to an open circle at a spiritualist church, and I sat down and was immediately able to do this reading with this, because you get paired up with partners and you just kind of practice. And I did this big reading to her, and she was like, wow. And I was like, oh my God. She's like, that's so-and-so. She's like, is he dead? I'm like, I'm like, well, yeah, I think so. She's like, I didn't know he passed. I was like, oh my God.
Oh no.
Yeah. Nice. Thanks, Spirit. Nice way, for me to break it to her. And then for me, like, being in this very logic-y law, not always the most soft, gentle sort of workplace and energy, I found it hard to kind of find my balance in that, because when you open up to spirit or to your intuition, you get quite sensitive, and you're really able to, something's happening out there. You're really able to sort of be picking up on everything. So being in that kind of work environment, I found it very challenging. And I really had to learn how to work with my energy. I really had to learn how to sort of have energetic boundaries, so that I could actually continue to function in my job that offers me pension and benefits and all of those other things. And I actually considered retiring and doing readings. And, I'm glad I didn't, because there's definitely that law and logic side to me
Yeah.
that is needs to be honored.
And it's that balance too, right? It's that balance
Exactly.
of
The
keeping
balance between the masculine
like,
and the feminine.
but also we're human for a reason. Like if we were meant to just be sitting in the spirit the whole time, we wouldn't. So, and you need lessons to learn in life. So,
100%.
you know, as you get older, you're probably meant to be more into that spirit side. But for now, you know, for the last 13 years, you weren't. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I did find my balance with it, and I was doing some readings here and there, and then in the last year and a half, I started working with Jeanette Biro. I actually reached out to her because, you know, I can say I'm a very strong medium, and to find somebody that can mentor me is not always easy to sort of get that next level of a person that can really truly give me some positive feedback. So I reached out to her because I've actually known of her through a very good friend of mine who she's best friends with. So I reached out to her and I was like, look, like, I don't know really what I want. I'm like, maybe like a one-on-one, we can just sit down. I just want to do a reading for you. And if there's any feedback or any sort of developmental tips that you want to give me, I would be happy to hear that. I just, you know, I find it hard to find a mentor. So she's like, yeah, that'd be great. Awesome. So we sat down and I did a reading for her and I finished and she goes, wow. She goes, Tania, I don't have feedback for you. She's like, the only feedback that I could possibly give you would be like telling an Olympic gold medalist to tighten up their turns so that they can keep getting, you know, gold medals. And I was like, wow. And Jeanette is so sweet. Like she's so sweet. So something is happening. We're going to have to pause.
Okay. All right.
Okay, we're back. I'm so sorry about that. I parent and I have a son who was just having an issue and I had to zip out to it. But you know what? We're going to keep it real. Like, honestly, that's my life.
Anyone who is a parent would just understand what just happened.
Right. Something's going on. I got to go deal with that. So
you were saying you read for Jeanette and she was like, you know, gold medalist.
Yeah. And then she's like, you know, if you were ever interested, she goes, I would love to have you be one of our readers. And I was like, yeah, I'm like, you know what, I'd like that. But I've been always super self-conscious about kind of coming out into the sort of logical, like law enforcement world, because I don't want people to look at me like I'm nuts. Two, I never really totally fit into the spiritual world because I'm a police officer and it's like, oh, no institutions accepted here, you know? So
I find that though, like I'm an interior designer, but it's more your world that you live in and the friends and everything. Like we're not woo-woo la-la people just in general. So then you go there and it's all about, you know, getting up to this depth and this vibration, this level. It's just like, it's not a language that you're used to or part of
or agree with.
Or agree with, or need to
or
be
resonate with. And not to say that I haven't, you know, sort of walked through all sort of the different things and figured out what works for me. And so anyway, so then I started reading for her and I've read for people all over the world and I love it. And so my goal right now is to kind of get to a place where I can do that more full time and, you know, step away from policing to some degree. So right now, I'm currently, like I said earlier, I'm working in child exploitation and I love it. And I think sort of the message that I can bring is that you don't have to be in that sensitivity sort of woo-woo place and you can still kind of function normally in the world and do these hard things, but still have that sort of deep connection to spirit and to yourself. So
and I think too, if you do, you know, if we're calling it intuition or sixth sense, if you do tap into that in your everyday life will actually be easier. Like it doesn't mean life's going to be hard, but it just means that you're kind of keeping ahead of yourself all the time and you're keeping yourself in check. I don't know what I'd do without it. like it's in every decision and everything that I do, your intuition is there, whether it's a gut feeling or whether it's something, a knowing, or, I think you and I are next level at this. Like, like I was doing the dishes the other day and I channeled a whole song that doesn't exist, right? So I write this song down and try and Google it, and it doesn't. And then the next day, another song, and like,
wow,
why the hell am I like? I have no musical sense, right? And I've just channeled 2 songs.
I typically, I don't always get that kind of stuff. Like it'll just kind of sneak in on me because I actually am, and kind of shut down in my regular life, not shut down. But, if something happens, I tune into my gut, into my intuition, but I don't always have kind of spirit talking to me because I can't open to those things in my regular job because I don't want to.
Yeah. But I mean, I go most of my life. Oh no, I actually tune in a lot. Like I can, but I like, it's another world. Like, you go with people and you sit by a pool and they read a book and do that in the sun. I sit there and I just have conversations going in my head. Like,
I understand that. Yes.
I thought I was really good at telling stories and making up stories, but actually it's not me. Like the first time I did a past life reading, I didn't even know if I believed in past lives. Like, and we got this thing on past lives, and I was like, oh, I get those stories from, the olden days and things, and I got no idea what they are, but they just come in my head. And I went to bed that night and I was sitting there and I was like thinking of the 2 people I just met in my little group, and I'm like, Susan and Barbara, they're just so lovely. And then I was just thinking how lucky I was to have them as a friendship. And then I just saw this scene and this whole story of this, lady, and I'll go into it into detail, but then afterwards I came out and told my husband. I was like, he was on the computer. I'm like, oh, I just had this weirdest thing happen. I was trying to go to sleep and blah, blah. And he's like, oh, so he starts fact checking my, the measles were 17. Oh, he goes, this is all fact. Like, this is all fact. It's just like, this is the weirdest shit. And he knows how shit I am at history and geography. So he knew that I can't.
You just swore twice.
Oh, sorry. She's a swearer, by the way, not me. And so, that stuff happens. And it's just like, I've got past life readings my whole life, but I didn't know what they are. And interesting enough, and I think we both fall into this category, I'm guessing on your behalf, but that we're both almost psychic medium skeptics. It's like,
oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's like, we've got this.
I question everything. And I do. And I'll be told something and I'll be like, are you sure? Like, I remember my grandfather for a while was my guide, and I would ask him questions over and over and over and over and over, 15 different ways. And he finally was like, Tanya, why do you trust what you give to others, but you will not trust what I give to you? And I'm like, I went through a phase where like I had to know everything about everything all the time. Like I wasn't willing to take a step into this world, into something different, if I didn't know from spirit that it was going to be okay. And I'm not like that now. I actually let life happen. But and I think that's more of why I'm not tuned in all the time, is because I had to let go of my need to know everything. Because we don't get told everything. Like, it's so funny when people find out that you're psychic or a medium, they're like, well, what about the lottery numbers? And it's like, it doesn't work like that. Like, I don't get stuff
I have a story
about
on that.
Own life.
I have a story on the lottery numbers, and we're going to talk about that on another podcast. It's very interesting, but we'll go to that. But I agree. But in saying what you just said then was like, you're not tuned in. I think you are tuned in all the time to the clairs, like to your knowing, to your
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, right. It's just you're not letting, you're able to control when you're open to let other spirits come in. Yes. And that's so important in your job, right? Because you can't emotionally get too involved in this. And so what I find is when I'm on my own and I'm doing dishes or I'm walking on the beach, or those times where I don't feel like I've got a guard, and not that you're actually making that decision, it sort of intuitively happens, right? That opening and shutting of the thing. That's when I find shit will just come in. And I sit at a higher, you know, kind of frequency. My energy runs at a higher level anyway. And I think just when I'm doing that, the water, the washing of the water, those sort of things, there's something that energy wise that comes with water or comes with movement for me that just brings those spirits in. And it's more so like I've never had songs before, and it's like, why am I getting
what
these
is
now?
this?
I know. Yeah. And then I spent 2 weeks trying to write one verse of a song to figure out whether maybe I was just super clever and I could write 2 songs in it, which my husband is quite good at assuring me that no way in any way are you clever enough for that.
You know, you said in my work that I can't get emotionally involved. And I just want to clarify on that, because I am very much a victim advocate in my job, but I can't emotionally connect to all of it, because then I wouldn't be able to help them. Yeah. I would have that burnout. So
you can't carry it away with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I just want to clarify that, because I care very much.
That's what yes.
About and I'm just saying it sort of for the listeners. Like, I care very much about the job that I do, very much about the children that we're trying to protect and save. I just can't emotionally tune into sort of all of the victims, because I won't be able to do my job and help them. I would just get that like compassion burnout. So
yeah, you got to look after the physical body too as well. Now we're probably way over our half hour, because I stopped the clock probably at around half hour when we stopped. Okay. So we are going to struggle to keep our time limits under, because we both
love to talk. Yeah.
And we've got so many stories. So
we do. And I'm super looking forward to this. So like I said earlier, that's what I want to do, is sort of just take the woo-woo out of it. But I also want to dive into what I found works, what these different things are, and how you can kind of move about life with them in a sort of grounded, keeping it real kind of way.
Yeah. And how you don't need the bells and whistles, if you can use them and they work for you, great. But if you don't worry too much about having to surround yourself with that. And I think if we do, it's almost like shopping in the lolly aisle, thinking that that's where all the treats are. But if you went over the whole store, you've passed all the other things that you actually naturally have abilities to. So, we'll definitely do a grass is greener for clear seeing, because clear seeing that everyone seems to want is not as great as it comes with a lot of responsibility and a lot of other issues involved. So that's one we can touch on. It
all does.
Yeah. But I have loved talking to you today, and doing our very first podcast, even though we had so many technical problems at the start.
And I had to pause it to go be a parent.
I think you were just adding the keeping it real there to all the different levels.
Right.
So,
just
that's
home. Yeah.
One foot in both worlds. That's the parenting as well. So yeah, lovely.
So thank you, everybody who listened. Maybe it's one person, maybe there's a whole bunch. I don't know, but we thank you so much for being here. Next month, we're going to carry on, and we're going to try to get this out once a week. So come back.
Yeah. And if you like it, please press like, share it with your friends. And we will talk to you very soon.
Thank you.
Bye.